All right, my name is Louis Cantero. Uh, I've been with IMCES for about 3 years. Um, I guess a good place to start would be where I was prior to my services with IMCES. Um, I've been suffering with anxiety and depression pretty much all my life, and uh, I would say I had been dealing with uh, or struggling with alcoholism as well for about 15 years before joining IMCES. I was having problems with uh, maintaining employment, maintaining good personal relations with my family and my friends. Um, Besides being in and out of work, I was in and out of homes. Whether it was my family home or my sister's home. Was borrowing a lot of money in order to just keep my head above water. But between the anxiety and depression and then the alcoholism, it was a real struggle to keep things in order. Lost a house, lost a few jobs along the way, and was just not taking very good care of myself, and was self-medicating essentially with the alcohol in order to deal with the dissatisfaction and the disappointments in my life, and also to kind of keep the anxiety down to a minimum, which really isn't the best way to handle things. It really started coming to a head, I would say, around 2020, when the drinking took a turn for the worse and started to cause some real, not just medical problems, physical problems, but also putting myself in dangerous situations, which very well could have gotten me seriously injured or even killed, just doing things, during blackout drunks, which is just absolutely insane. And it really put a strain on the people around me, to the point where they couldn't trust me or trust what I would do when I was drunk. And the anxiety just became an endless background noise, which affected everything: family, work, personal relationships, and then of course, ultimately the physical toll that it took on me. That's where I was prior to finding and joining IMCES. My path actually led me to a referral agency in Pasadena that I walked a few miles for, and they did an intake for me, and ultimately I ended up with IMCES. And once the wheel started turning, they gave me immediate relief. The first thing that they did was they provided me with a roof over my head, so I wasn't out on the street. So that was the biggest, most immediate relief that I had, was that I didn't have to worry about where I was going to be laying my head. From the very beginning, there was a lot of outreach, a lot of support there. The first year was a struggle because I was still dealing with the alcoholism, and I wasn't ready to embrace everything that was being offered. You still try to kid yourself uh, for a long time that you can somehow manage your problems on your own. And so that first year, um, there were a lot of ups and downs. At the end of that first year, though, call it 2021, I had that epiphany that people have when they finally realize is that, you know, your life is unmanageable. You can't handle this by yourself, and you need to accept the help that's out there. And once I was willing to accept that, you know, IMCES was right there to help me with everything. The first thing that they did was they got me into rehab, where I really made that decision to change my life for the better. I was able to see and speak with a therapist and a psychiatrist on a regular basis to help deal with the anxiety and depression issues. They're always there and available, so that if I was dealing with a particular crisis at the time, there was always someone available on the call, you know, on the phone, so that I could reach out to. And whenever I needed something to live with, you know, whether it was clothes or whether it was transportation or you know, just some basic living essential, IMCES was there to help cover the costs and lend that support. I know I did a few workshops, both in the office and then, you know, on site at home, to help get a clearer picture of the issues that were bothering me at the time, what was causing the anxiety, what was causing, you know, the depression, to look at things from a different perspective than my own, and to bring me to a point where not everything was a 4-alarm fire that required me to just unravel and take a big step back, you know, to a previous place, because that ultimately was the real risk, is just repeating the same bad habits and decisions. So they were really there to help me guide, you know, guide my thinking, guide, even to a certain extent, guide my emotions, and consider that the old way of doing things was not really the best. And my therapist, Chandrell, was a huge help in that, in helping me, you know, look at things from a different perspective. And as far as the, you know, my immediate needs, my living needs, my caseworker Yorland was a tremendous help each and every time I really needed something that I could not manage on my own. Not having to worry about those ever-pressing emotional issues or the or even the living situation, that allowed me to focus on other things like you know, becoming more self-sufficient and looking for more steady work, and to improve myself, to make myself more appealing to employers and whatnot. You know, it's a struggle and it's a process, but without their help, I think I would still just be treading water and not making any sort of headway in my own life. So that was a big part of what I got out of the program. Well, here we are 3 years later, and there have been some big changes for me. The biggest one right now is that I have a full-time position um, in the career that I love at a place, uh, Laughlin, Nevada, that I used to live in and absolutely loved. I have a new apartment waiting for me. I've picked up a really important credential, certification, through the help of IMCES. I've picked up along the way a whole lot of tools that allow me to deal with the day-to-day and the big issues that come up in my life, so that I don't get, emotionally burdened. I've been sober for 2 years now and counting. That's not one thing that I'll ever look back at. It's been a learning experience, learning more about myself, being able to manage the things that I couldn't manage without a drink or without just letting things get worse, which was a big problem for me, getting a bad situation and making things worse. My therapist and my psychiatrist through IMCES really helped me to get a hold of that. I have a much better relationship with my friends and my family than I did in the past few years, which is no small thing. It's one of the most important things for me, as a matter of fact. It's allowed me to become a lot more productive, not just for myself but also for them, because my family is probably the most important thing in my life. It's the resources that have been there for me have just allowed me to be at a much higher place and a much better place than I was, just a few years ago. And I don't feel hopeless like I did before. I don't feel that the goals that I want to pursue are impossible. And emotionally speaking, even though things are not always perfect, I don't have to have a complete total meltdown. I don't have to use that as an excuse to not get something done. I don't feel discouraged, and I don't let that fear or anxiety get in the way of what my goals are. And like I said, the resources, the tools that I've and the things that I've gotten from IMCES are going to stick with me. I'll take those things going forward. So it's not that it was just a one shot drop in the bucket type deal. These are the things that I take with me to grow and to become a more successful person. The managing my addiction and my mental health were huge obstacles to overcome if I was going to become a better person for myself and for my family. And so, here I am, new job, new home, new opportunities, and I know that those are not going to stop. And that the single biggest obstruction to those, which was ultimately me, is no longer there, and so that's something I owe IMCES a lot for, and I am thankful. that they were there to help me out through, which was probably the worst time in my life. And things are looking a whole lot better.